Hey, Melina.
Yeah?
You remember 2 weeks ago, that project that we were working on?
Uh-huh.
You're still nervous, aren't you?
I am still nervous.
I guess we just got to handle it now. We got to move on. We got to get over it. It's a
Yeah.
learning experience. That feeling in your stomach, just get rid of it. We're letting go.
I
We're
like
gonna learn
that.
about it.
I like that.
Yeah. And today, in this episode of the Principal Choice Podcast, we're going to talk with Jerome Green about starting new, letting go, and moving on. Find your purpose.
Find your people.
And find your
place.
Welcome back to the Principal Choice Podcast. On today's episode of the Principal Choice Podcast, we are going to talk about resiliency, starting new, letting go, and moving on. Joining us is Jerome Green. Welcome, Jerome Green. We are talking about some resiliency topics today. So first thing I wanted to pick your mind on is not only just resiliency for yourself, but building that resiliency for others that you work with, maybe that you're their manager for or their mentor for. What is one of the first things that you push towards when you're trying to build that resiliency with someone else?
I don't know. I would suggest that, in different interactions with individuals, you want them to know that certain situations and certain things that happen, events or whatever, don't necessarily define them. So it's a little bit better to push on, go to the next thing, grow from this, take what we can from it, learn from it, and just keep moving, right? Mm-hmm. So I always try to gear my conversations around learning from the experience rather than just dwelling on it. What happened, what might have went wrong with it. That way it's a little bit easier to navigate, kind of getting over something or getting through something.
Yeah, that more positive spin, or maybe not even positive, but productive. You
The
don't want to be
educational
overly
side of
positive.
it. Yeah. Kind
exactly.
of like learning from those issues or the trouble areas where there was or why something didn't work out the way it does.
Right. Because you always want to say, you always want to speak to, I don't know, I guess the common sense side of things. And you want to say, the milk is spilled. Let's go. Let's move on. All we need is paper towels. We'll clean it up. But, the reality of it is everybody considers the spilled milk differently. Mm-hmm. Right? Everybody considers it differently. So you can't just have one solitary approach to moving past that,
100.
Absolutely. I know I have a hard time letting some things go, especially if I feel like it was a me issue. So if I feel like, I know it's because I did this wrong, or I should have tried harder here. For those people that are having a hard time kind of like overcoming that, what kind of conversations do you have with them so they can start to feel like they have that ownership but can move on? Like they understand like, hey, yeah, this didn't work out. There were some issues, but it's okay. How can we move on from here?
I think just getting the individual to see their value in whatever they were working on, their position in whatever they were working on. If they can ascertain their position in it, and then they can see what path they wanted to go, needed to go, it should have went. Usually those things are in hindsight, but the hindsight it teaches us, right? It teaches us for the future, right? And a lot of times we say, "I won't do that again," because maybe it was a near-death experience, and we don't want to. Potentially it be fatal next time. Right? And so we want to learn from those things. We want to keep on going. And I don't know. I can talk forever, but I trail off a little bit too.
No, you're doing great. I think kind of what you put on, Melina, too, the hesitancy, at least for me, it goes to fear of what is someone going to look at me as because I didn't meet expectations. Are they now just not going to, give me opportunity anymore? You as a person can really hold things on a lot longer than other people around you do just because it involves yourself. And that's really a hard piece to let go. But as like a manager and a leader, like what I found is you sometimes just have to be straight up level with them and say like, I don't care that this happened.
Right.
It doesn't matter anymore.
Right.
Because if you don't say it, then it's in this old la la land assumed knowledge that they think it does matter anymore. When no, it doesn't. Just
Yeah,
no,
definitely.
we're done with it.
That
So,
self-doubt part of it is natural, right? It's going to be there. It's going to come. It's probably going to be the second or third emotion that kind of hits you when you're going through whatever crisis you're going through or challenge or difficulty or whatever the case might be. It's natural. Navigate it, feel it for what it's worth, grow from it, and just keep moving. Easier said than done, but talking around it is kind of a thing.
yeah. And you mentioned talking around it. How would you, I don't want to maybe not say push someone, but encourage someone who's struggling to talk about it because of those fears? What would you tell them to be like, no, it's okay, like let it out? How would you navigate that?
I don't know. In today's climate, I tend to not push, right?
Fair.
Too hard anyway. I think my style is more coaxing and to let you be who you're going to be naturally, and then we'll work and develop what's there, right? If you have a passion to go somewhere and you have some skills and some aptitude to be somewhere else, then let's work with that and let's grow that direction. If you're having some challenges expressing yourself and expressing, I don't know, especially the expressing part of it, you don't, I don't know. I have to think about that a minute.
Yeah.
Well, while you do think about that, please feel free to interrupt me at any time if your thoughts come. Like, do not be like, oh my gosh, now I have to wait for it to stop talking. I like that you kind of almost said coax that out of them, because it kind of makes me see it as weird as this is going to sound really weird, but almost like you're trying to build trust with like an animal of some kind, where you're trying to make sure they can understand that trust, and you have to slowly build that trust because they're going to be nervous, they're worried. Obviously, they're worried and nervous because of something that happened previously that could affect this. Just like, hey, in my last job, I got completely berated because I did something wrong. And now I have a hard time letting go of the wrong I did because that's all was ever focused. So how do you pivot and then have that positive conversation with it and coax that out of them that way?
Sure. And I know being in a leadership role and having the opportunity to have those conversations, you want to express to an individual that we're going to learn together, right? You're an individual, I'm an individual. I know nothing about you, right? I know nothing about how you got where you are. So in order to help you grow, I have to learn some of those things. And in learning some of those things, I may be able to teach you some of the things that I have that'll help you get over some of those challenges that maybe you faced in the past or may face in the future. And so that's kind of how I see it. Let's grow together, and we'll learn different things about one another and different things about our styles. And then maybe I can help you with some of my experiences, right? Because that's the only way I'm teaching you from my experiences. And generally, if you relay those to a person in a way where they can comprehend them or maybe even, they can grow from it, right? They can see different things that they can take with them.
Yeah. And I think the continually learning and teaching each other helps build the confidence up for them to feel like maybe the next time they do a stumble, they're not falling completely. It's more of like a little trip more than anything.
Sure.
And then they can go, okay, I can easily recover that. Like, I didn't just face plant. I didn't Charlie Brown it in the snow or anything. I just had a little stumble, and now I can kind of move forward. And I think having those continuing learning situations and conversations really help kind of build that resilience up. And I think it really does start with that trust. And I think you being open, saying, hey, we don't know each other. Like, let's do that so I can help you better. I think that's really the best way. I really enjoy that.
Yeah, it definitely starts with trust. And we talked about that some when we mentioned like accountability in previous times. That's the way to get the honest look at it. Either way, not just, I feel like we all not we all, but a lot of us have a sense of wanting to feel comfort and secure, and we'll do anything to feel that. But the only way that we can actually like grow from it and build that trust is being open, being vulnerable, having those hard conversations about things that may have been negative, and being okay with the response that we may get. Of course, there's always lines. We don't want to cross lines, like you mentioned, pushing. Okay, maybe you don't push as much anymore, just with the climate of the world. But you create that sense of comfortability in order to get to the uncomfortable areas.
Sure.
It's a tool to get to there, not just be comfortable because we're friends now. It's, no, we're having a relationship. We're trying to grow together and leveling that playing field.
Yeah, definitely. I think even it could be one of the pitfalls of a leader too, is that comfort. You kind of settle into that comfort, and you keep telling individuals like, no, it's not a problem. It's we're gonna grow. We're gonna learn from it. Well, really, you're not addressing the challenge, right?
Oh, I've been in that plenty of times.
Yeah, you're
sure
not.
We all have.
Just everybody's happy, right?
Yeah.
Let's just keep going. Nobody's learned anything. We're just kind of, I'm scared to get yelled at, or I'm scared of what this other person might think.
Yeah.
But and that's one of the reasons you develop that relationship, because when it's time to say you can't do that again, you can't do that again, or we should be past this, or remember from the last time we had this challenge, we learned these few things. In order to have those conversations, you have to have some type of relationship built where that person trusts you to receive that. And so, I think that could be a big pitfall of leadership.
Yeah, for sure.
I think just hearing about this too, and kind of going back and forth on it, like worried about the reaction, worried about what someone's going to say. And there's something that I've been trying to do a lot lately in my personal life as well as professionally, and that is I know I can spiral out and create things in my head, and I have to stop and go, Milena, you don't need to write their story. You're only capable of writing your own. And anything else, that's all it is just a story.
For sure.
And because you don't know their truth, you don't know what they're going through. And until you have that conversation, yes, it can be scary, but until you have that, it's always going to just be that story in your head. And you're going to make it worse or you're going to make it better, depending on what you're wanting as the outcome.
Definitely.
It's so hard.
You know what that made me think of? It made me think of parenting. And then it made me think of having different conversations with my children, whereby you're asking them something and you're expecting them to tell you the truth, whereby you've already built this story in your head, like, yeah, I know my son, he ran into those curbs because now when I drive the car, it runs kind of funny. So you've already got this preconceived notion in your head. And so when you ask them, it's no, Dad, I haven't hit anything. So at what point do I call my son a liar? At what point do I stop accepting?
And how do you react to that?
Sure.
How is your body reacting to that? Are you angry because you wrote the story and that's not the truth? Or
sure.
is it because you wrote the story and it is the truth, or you're assuming it is? That, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's part of that whole thing, that resiliency, that moving on, that growing from it aspect, because although you feel that way, it may be a natural emotion too, like, I know the truth, but not really, and when do you stop accepting what he's telling you as the truth, So there's a part of it where you have to grow in each of those interactions and each of those instances, and it gets easier the next time,
Yeah.
But then you don't want to be a pushover. Right?
Yeah,
So
it's that balance you have to find. It's almost with anything. You have to find that balance between, and it comes in all levels, like even accountability. There's a point where you can probably take accountability too much because you're taking accountability for other people's
100%.
things that they should take accountability for. Or moving on too quick, moving on too slow. There's that balance, and it's just like working out. Like you have to train the muscle.
Yeah.
Or doing math. You have to train the brain to figure out what works for you.
Repetition is key.
Yes,
repetition
it is.
is
Repetition
key.
is key.
100%. And like you said, it makes those hard conversations, those things that we don't want to talk about, a lot easier because we've navigated it so many times that we maybe there's not a clear road cut out, but we can say, well, we know what part of the ground is good for road and what part isn't.
Yeah. I know where to start.
Exactly.
Right? I know where to start. I know this individual, and at least I know where to start at. So even if that starting is coming in saying, uh-oh, Eric, what did you do now? You know? If we've built that type of rapport, Eric is probably going to say, I haven't seen it yet, but how bad is it? You know? And we have a starting point, right? Yeah. And I like it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
One thing I kind of want to touch on too, because we've touched on kind of helping others see that moving on point, helping them be resilient. We also have to talk about ourselves too, to be more resilient. Not to bring the whole selfish aspect, just kidding.
I like to talk about me. No,
we have to understand those things that happen to us or the things that we do, because we can't always have the "this happened to me" mindset, like we said it at the beginning. We have to know when to take accountability of it and move on from it. And I think for a lot of people, that's the hardest piece, because it feels like an attack on your character when you have to move on, or you don't want to move on because you don't like how it looked in the past and you don't want to leave it at that. But sometimes that's all you can do is say, it is what it is, go forward. But we don't want to. We like that control over changing the narrative. But
I don't know, for whatever reason, it makes what you were talking. So I start thinking part ways through what you said. So please forgive me.
oh, you're good.
But it made me think of when I was younger and I faced disappointment, right? Whether it been from a parent or whatever the case might be. It makes me remember those times where, like, somebody told me something was going to happen. I was all excited for it, and then it didn't happen, you know? I think somewhere along the line, you understand your role in that feeling, in that disappointment. And so that's how you're able to get up out of that feeling and out of that state. You understand your role. And then eventually maybe you get used to it or whatever the case, and that's how you get thicker skin or whatever the case might be. So in just growing up and being an adult and a parent, you know, it makes you understand how you can spread disappointment, right? And so you want to be aware of those things. And so I think the same thing as far as being a leader and equating it to different aspects of that and different skills of that. You can, I don't know, whatever you said made me think of that.
Yeah. No, that definitely makes sense. And because you were saying like your role of feeling disappointed, and then you were saying like the spreading of disappointment. Is that what you, just to make sure?
And and your role in that as well.
Exactly.
You know?
And I don't know, and this may not be like, disappointment's a tool. I don't know. That kind of sounds weird, but like I've kind of realized that a little bit. Not like I'm going to use it as a tool against somebody.
Yeah, that I'm not mad, I'm disappointed.
Yeah, but I feel like that it hits a little deeper because it's kind of like a coaching role. It's, I'm disappointed this happened, but it's easier to move on from disappointed than it is I'm PO'd or I'm mad or angry. In my opinion,
I don't know.
It depends on how deep it is.
Because to me, disappointment is more of a hurt, like I don't know. Like
it almost makes you sad.
Sad.
It has a little bit more weight. Where I feel like anger, kind of like for me personally, I don't know. Maybe we're vibing here on this. Maybe we're vibing on the whole thing. But like anger almost feels like a rising. Like I can feel something rising in me. Like I can feel the heat. I can tell I'm getting hot and I'm getting angry and this is not good. Whereas disappointment, I feel like there's a rock in my stomach.
Yeah, it's like the stomach knot.
Yeah. And
like you want this to go away so bad.
I mean, I could be sleeping with the fishes. That's based like push me in the water. That's how it feels. Like horrible. Like just
yeah,
just
how could you do that?
Yeah, exactly.
That makes more sense. And maybe where I'm coming from is more damage can be done with anger than disappointment. I think there's a lot more positives that can come from disappointment, and if it's used in a productive manner and everyone's on the same page versus getting angry and boiling over and breaking.
I think that's because anger feels very impulsive, and disappointment, you have to sit with that. You have to understand why you're disappointed. Like, I'm not disappointed that this didn't get done. I'm disappointed in your attitude in this, or I'm disappointed in how you didn't follow through. I'm disappointed that this wasn't completed when asked. Like, those are the things. Like I know for certain what is setting that disappointment there. Whereas anger, if I'm already angry because something set me off, it's an immediate switch and you just want to just burst out there.
Yeah.
You have a better chance of hurting someone's feelings or misconstruing or blowing things out of proportion with your anger than with your disappointment.
Definitely agree. And when you think of it in the way that you have just expressed it, it made me think, I don't know. I think I lost my train of thought.
I'm so disappointed. I'm kidding. No, but it definitely makes sense. I think the disappointed, I think, is the first step to moving on. Well, I mean, unless you put anger aside, but that's that true, you're finding the why. You're figuring out why is there that gut, like that knot in my stomach, that hurt, versus anger is that impulse, like you said. And that's, to me, I feel like is the true first step to saying, this is why I'm disappointed. This is what happened. This is why it happened. This is what's going to happen going forward in order to let go, in order to start new, in order to move on. There's a little bit more to work there.
Yeah.
Immediately start setting those boundaries for yourself.
Yeah, and even giving you time to figure out the boundaries and where we want to go forward. But if it gets that true, like, honest look in the mirror. Because when you're angry, you're probably not looking in the mirror. You're just angry. You're just mad. Exactly. So.
Yeah, I like that. Because it's true. It's so hard to try and find a middle ground. But I mean, it's...
Yeah.
It's a balancing act. Everything, all of it is. I mean, I tell my team all the time, you have to be pretty versatile when you're in your day-to-day interactions. Your job, right? You have to be versatile in your communications with people, right? Even the interactions that you have where you want the same thing out of a few different individuals, it's probably got to go about it 3 different ways, right? 3 different individuals. So.
Yeah.
It's a challenge you have to grow from, definitely.
Yeah, for sure.
Eric, thank you so much for today. This felt really good. I understand the importance of letting go and, keeping that resilience and never wavering it. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's good to move on and let go from something and use it as a learning experience, for sure.
Absolutely. And don't forget to check out our show notes and join us next time on the Principal Choice podcast. Find your purpose.
Find your people.
Find your place.
Find your place.